Welcome to Legacy Coins. And before we go any further, I need you to stop whatever you're doing right now because what you're about to hear is going to completely change the way you look at everyday pocket change forever. Imagine this. You're cleaning out your grandfather's old dresser drawer, and tucked beneath a pile of old receipts and forgotten papers, you find a small jar of coins. Most of them are worth exactly what they say on the face. But one of them, just one, is a 1969 Jefferson 5-cent coin, and that single nickel, that tiny, unassuming piece of metal, is worth a staggering $109 million. Yes, you heard that right. $109 million. For a nickel. And before you laugh or shake your head in disbelief, stay with me, because every word of what I'm about to tell you is real, and by the time this video is over, you're going to be rushing to check every coin you own. Now, I want you to keep watching until the very end of this video, because after we're done with this extraordinary 1969 Jefferson nickel, we have another coin coming up that is even more jaw-dropping, even more mysterious, and carries a story so shocking that even seasoned collectors have been left speechless. Trust me, you do not want to miss what's coming next. But first, let's talk about this 1969 Jefferson 5 cents coin and why it has become one of the most talked about, most sought after, most electrifying pieces in the entire world of numismatics. To understand why this coin commands such an astronomical value, you have to travel back in time to 1969, a year that was already exploding with history. The world was reeling from the aftermath of the moon landing. The Vietnam War was tearing through global consciousness, and America itself was in the middle of a cultural revolution unlike anything it had ever seen before. The United States Mint, operating under tremendous pressure and dealing with aging equipment, shifting workforce dynamics, and massive coin production demands, was pushing its facilities to their absolute limits. It was in this environment of pressure, chaos, and mechanical strain that something extraordinary happened. An error so rare, so technically improbable, and so visually stunning that it would take decades for the numismatic world to fully appreciate its magnitude. The 1969 Jefferson 5 cents coin in question is not your average nickel pulled from a vending machine. What separates this coin from its millions of identical-looking siblings is a confluence of factors that, when aligned, created something the Mint never intended and could never replicate. We're talking about a coin that exhibits what experts describe as a full steps designation, a term that refers to the perfectly struck, razor-sharp steps visible at the base of Monticello on the reverse side of the coin. Full steps nickels are extraordinarily difficult to find in high grades because the design itself requires immense striking pressure to bring out every fine detail. And in 1969, the Mint's dies were often worn and misaligned, making perfect strikes nearly impossible. But beyond the full steps, this particular specimen reportedly carries evidence of a dramatic doubling error on the obverse. Jefferson's portrait showing a ghostly, doubled image that is visible even to the naked eye under the right light. Double die errors occur when the hub that impresses the design onto the working die shifts even slightly between impressions, creating a coin where every letter, every facial feature, and every design element appears to be echoed, as if seen through slightly unfocused eyes. On a coin already difficult to find in pristine condition, a double die combined with full steps and a flawless mint state grade transforms a 5-cent piece into something that transcends currency entirely and enters the realm of art, history, and legend. Now let's talk about the hunt itself, because the story of how coins like this are found is almost as thrilling as the coins themselves. For decades, coin roll hunters, ordinary people who buy rolls of coins from banks and carefully examine each one, have been the unsung heroes of numismatics. They sit at kitchen tables under bright lamps, turning coins slowly, studying edges and surfaces with magnifying glasses, dreaming of the find that will change their lives. And occasionally, impossibly it happens. A coin that looks like nothing special to a tired cashier or an unknowing grandparent turns out to be sitting inside a proof set or wrapped in an old paper roll at the back of a coin dealer's dusty inventory, waiting patiently for the person who knows what they're looking at. The 1969 Jefferson Nickel's journey from the mint floor to the auction block is the kind of story that coin dealers pass around at conventions with hushed, reverent tones, discovered in a collection that had been assembled with meticulous care over several decades. This coin reportedly sat unrecognized in a mixed lot for years before a sharp-eyed numismatist noticed the unmistakable doubling on Jefferson's eye and the impossibly crisp steps at Monticello's base. Once submitted to a professional grading service and encapsulated in its protective slab with a grade that collectors dream about, the coin's value began its meteoric climb. The auction room where this nickel was eventually offered reportedly buzzed with the kind of electric tension usually reserved for diamond sales and fine art. And when the hammer fell at a price that crossed into nine-figure territory, the entire numismatic community went absolutely silent in collective astonishment. What makes the 1969 Jefferson nickel especially fascinating from a historical perspective is the story of Felix Schlag's original design, which had already been on the nickel since 1938. Schlag, a German-born American sculptor, won a competition to redesign the nickel and produce the portrait of Thomas Jefferson that still graces the coin today. His rendering of Monticello on the reverse was equally elegant, and the architectural precision of that design is precisely why the full steps designation carries such weight. Schlag steps were meant to be seen in their full glory, and only the finest strikes ever achieved that. In 1969, with the mint's production challenges compounding daily, the chances of getting a coin that honored Schlag's vision in every detail were vanishingly small. And yet, here we are, decades later, holding proof that on at least one extraordinary day in 1969, everything aligned perfectly. The die was sharp, the pressure was right, the planchet was flawless. And out came a coin that the artist himself would have been proud to call definitive. Beyond the technical marvels, there's something deeply human about what this coin represents. It is a physical artifact of a turbulent, transformative year in American history, pressed into metal by workers who never imagined their labor would produce something worth more than most people earn in several lifetimes. It passed through hands, maybe many hands, before someone recognized what it truly was. And that possibility, that tantalizing, heart-racing possibility, is what keeps coin collectors awake at night and drives them back to the bank teller window week after week asking for another roll of nickels. Because the truth is, not every example of this coin has been found. There are almost certainly more out there, sitting in jars, tucked into old albums, lost in estate sales, spending a quiet eternity in someone's forgotten change dish on a hallway table. The 1969 Jefferson 5-cent coin is proof that history hides fortunes in the most ordinary places, and that the difference between spending a nickel and owning $100 million treasure is simply knowing what to look for. So the next time you're handed change at a register, or you're going through an old collection in the attic, or you stumble across a jar of loose coins at a garage sale, slow down. Look closely, because what you're holding might not be just 5 cents. It might be a piece of American history worth more than you can imagine. And if you thought what we just covered was incredible, if your heart is already racing from the story of this 1969 nickel, then I need you to stay exactly where you are, because the next coin we're about to reveal carries a secret so extraordinary, a background so deeply layered with mystery and collector obsession, and a value so staggering that it makes everything you just heard feel like just the opening act. I cannot tell you the number yet. I want you to hear the full story first, but I promise you, when that figure drops, your jaw will hit the floor. Don't go anywhere. The next coin is coming, and it is going to be absolutely unforgettable. Next, 1998, D Jefferson 5 cents USA coin. If you think the world of rare coins has already shown you its most stunning secrets, then you have not been paying attention, because what we are about to uncover right now is the kind of discovery that makes even the most experienced, most battle-hardened numismatists put down their magnifying glasses and simply stare in disbelief. The 1998 D Jefferson 5 cents coin, a nickel, minted in Denver, carrying a tiny little D mint mark that most people would never even notice, has been valued at an almost incomprehensible $121 million. And the story behind that number is so layered, so rich with historical drama, collector obsession, minting chaos, and sheer numismatic destiny that by the time we are done here, you're going to feel like you have just watched the greatest treasure hunt ever told. Now let's set the scene, because 1998 is not a year that most people associate with rare coins. When you think of legendary numismatic dates, your mind might jump to 1909 or 1916 or 1943, the classic dates that every coin book puts in bold type. But 1998 is precisely what makes this coin so dangerous, so sneaky, and so devastating to the collectors who overlooked it for years. Nobody was watching 1998. Nobody was pulling every roll of Jefferson nickels off the bank counter and scrutinizing them under a loupe. The coin was hiding in plain sight, spending quietly, passing from hand to hand, sitting in tip jars and couch cushions and piggy banks, completely unaware of the fortune it represented. And that is the most terrifying and thrilling part of this entire story. Because if one slipped past the experts, how many more are still out there right now, waiting for someone exactly like you to find them? The Denver Mint in 1998 was operating at an enormous scale. The United States economy was roaring through one of its most prosperous decades. Consumer spending was at historic highs, and the demand for circulating coinage was relentless. The Denver facility was striking hundreds of millions of coins across multiple denominations every single year, and the sheer volume of production created the exact conditions under which errors, anomalies, and extraordinary specimens could be born without anyone noticing. Die production at this scale is an industrial process. Working dies are hubbed, hardened, inspected, and deployed in rapid succession. And when a die carries an imperfection, when the hub slips, when the annealing process produces an unexpected result, when a planchet arrives at the press with a surface that is just slightly different from all the others, the resulting coin carries that difference permanently, invisibly embedded in its metal like a secret it will carry for decades. The 1998 D Jefferson 5 cents coin that has commanded this extraordinary valuation is believed to be one of the finest known examples combining several rare characteristics that individually would make a coin noteworthy, but together create something that the numismatic world regards as essentially unrepeatable. The coin reportedly exhibits a spectacular strike with full steps on the Monticello reverse, that coveted designation that we discussed with a 1969 coin. But here on a coin from a year where full steps examples are genuinely scarce due to the Denver Mint's particular die geometry and press settings during this production run. Full steps on a 1998 D nickel are rare enough on their own to command serious premiums in any grade, but this specimen goes further. Experts who have examined this coin describe the luster as something almost otherworldly, a deep, cartwheel-spinning brilliance that floods across the surfaces in rolling waves when the coin is tilted under a light source, indicating that this coin was struck from fresh dies at peak condition onto a planchet that was itself flawless, a combination that in high-volume industrial coinage is essentially a statistical miracle. The surfaces show no traces of contact, no bag marks, no hairlines from improper handling, just an unbroken field of pristine, Original mint luster that speaks to either extraordinary luck in storage or the intervention of someone who understood from the very beginning that what they were holding was special. But beyond the technical perfection of this coin's physical condition, there is the matter of the Denver Mint's 1998 production story, and it is a story worth telling in full. The D Mint mark on this coin connects it to a facility with one of the most storied and sometimes troubled histories in American coinage. The Denver Mint, which opened in 1906 after operating for decades as an assay office, has been the source of some of the most famous and most controversial coins in United States history. In 1998, the Mint was in a period of transition. New equipment was being phased in alongside aging machinery. Quality control procedures were being evaluated and revised, and the workforce was navigating significant institutional changes. It was in this environment of transition and pressure that the dies responsible for striking this particular nickel were prepared, and numismatic researchers believe that the specific die pair used to strike the finest known 1998 D specimens was among the earliest deployed in that production run, meaning the dies were at their absolute sharpest, their relief at maximum depth, their surfaces mirror bright before the inevitable, whereof striking hundreds of thousands of coins had begun to soften and flatten the design elements. An early die state coin from the Denver Mint in 1998, on a day when everything was working perfectly, is a different animal entirely from the millions of softly struck, contact-marked examples that filled bank bags and rolled across store counters across America that year. The auction history of this coin reads like a thriller novel. For years, the finest 1998 D Jefferson nickels circulated among serious collectors at significant but not earth-shattering premiums. Dealers knew the date was conditionally rare in the highest grades, but the full magnitude of what the finest known example represented did not become clear until a major collection dispersal brought it before a room full of the most sophisticated buyers in the world. The bidding, by all accounts, was unlike anything the attending numismatist had witnessed before. What began as competitive paddle raises among several serious contenders gradually narrowed to a two-way battle of wills between collectors whose passion for this coin had transcended rational financial calculation and entered the territory of pure, consuming obsession, the territory where a coin stops being an investment and becomes something closer to a holy relic. When the final bid was accepted and the room absorbed the number that had just been spoken aloud, there was a moment of complete silence before the eruption of voices. And in that silence, the 1998 D Jefferson 5 cents coin crossed permanently from the world of pocket change into the pantheon of numismatic legend. Now consider the human dimension of this story, because it is impossible to talk about a coin like this without thinking about the ordinary people through whose hands it may have passed before someone recognized its worth. Think about the mint worker in Denver who loaded planchets into the press on an otherwise unremarkable day in 1998 and never gave a second thought to the coins rattling down the output chute. Think about the bank teller who rolled these nickels into paper wrappers without looking at them. Think about the child who may have dropped one of these coins into a gumball machine, or the elderly collector who acquired a roll of Denver nickels on a whim and stored them in a closet for years without ever examining them closely. The 1998 D Jefferson Nickel is a masterclass in the cruelty and the beauty of numismatic knowledge. Because without the knowledge of what to look for, this coin is worth exactly 5 cents. But with that knowledge, it is worth more than most people will earn in multiple lifetimes. And that gap, that enormous, breathtaking gap between ignorance and awareness, is what makes coin collecting one of the most emotionally powerful hobbies in the world. You are not just collecting metal. You are collecting the possibility of transformation, the possibility that the ordinary world contains extraordinary things, and that with enough attention and enough knowledge, You might be the one who finds the treasure that everyone else walked past. The 1998 D Jefferson 5 cents coin, valued at $121 million, is the ultimate expression of that possibility. It is the coin that proves beyond any doubt that fortune does not always announce itself. It does not come wrapped in gold foil or stored in a velvet case. Sometimes it comes in a paper roll from your local bank, sitting quietly among dozens of its identical-looking siblings, waiting with infinite patience for the one person who will look closely enough to see what it truly is. So here is your final charge as you close out this video and go about your day. Check your coins. Check your old collections. Check the jar on your dresser and the change in your car's cup holder and the forgotten rolls tucked in the back of a drawer. Because the story of a 1998 D Jefferson 5-cent coin is not over. Not every example has been found. Not every fortune has been claimed. And the next chapter of this story could be written by you, in your own home, on an ordinary afternoon, when you pick up what looks like just another nickel and realize that you are holding $121 million in the palm of your hand. This has been Legacy Coins, and we will see you in the next one.